Hi, I'm Pam Cullen from 3 Mile Pond Girls Creates, and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Augusta, Maine. And today I'm going to show you how I created this really pretty card using the Eden's Garden stamp set featured on page 59 of the annual catalog. And we're going to be doing a different technique today. It's actually one of my favorite techniques. We're going to be doing this card in what we call Emboss Resist technique, where we're going to use some Versamark ink, we're going to heat emboss, and then we're going to ink over this and wipe off, and that's how we get this really pretty technique. So we're using one of our new ink colors today, the really pretty Orchid Oasis stamp. That's the blue color, which I really love, and for those of you who have watched previous videos, Misty Moonlight was one of my favorite colors, and that's since retired, and so this might be a new runner-up to that one because I think this is a really nice blue. It accents really well with the old olive behind it, and then these nice features on here. And then on the inside of the card, I just put, "Dear friend, how are you?" So we're going to be using a few of the stamps. We're going to be using this nice floral piece here, and these leaves, the hello there, and the "Dear friend, how are you" from here. So let's just get started, and I'll show you the pieces that we're going to be using to make this card. Like I mentioned, we have a card base of 5 1/2, 8 1/2, scored at 4 1/4, which will be our card base. And I'm going to just use my bone folder to get a good burnish on that, so we have a nice fold there. And then we have our piece of 5 1/4 by 4 old olive. And then we have a piece of 3 3/4 by 5 piece that we're going to be doing that emboss resisting on, and then our piece of 5 1/4 by 4 for the inside of our card. So don't worry if you don't get all these measurements, colors, products that I'm using. I'll have it all posted on my blog over at 3 Mile Pond Girl Creates after this video, so you can go over there if you'd like to work on recreating this card. So we're going to hold out our white pieces here, and I'm just going to bring in a piece of scrap paper because we're going to be stamping off. We're going to be stamping off this paper a little bit, so I'm just going to bring this in to protect our working surface afterwards. So let me just tell you, I'm going to start out with an Embossing Buddy. And these were discontinued for Stampin' Up! For a little while, but I have great news. In the new July to December mini catalog, it's back. Oops, I've got it upside down. This way will work. This works better. So here it is, right here. It's on page 49 in the mini catalog, and you get the tray to catch your embossing powder. You get your Embossing Buddy, this little brush in case you get pieces of the embossing powder where you don't want it before you heat emboss, and then this great pair of tweezers. Oh my goodness, these tweezers are amazing. So this toolkit, like I said, is $27, and it's featured in the July to December mini catalog. So if you've been missing that, now's the time to get that. And if you order a little bit more, and so your order is $50 or more, then you also qualify for celebration items, and they just added some new items to choose from for celebration, so it's a great time to get that. So I will have that listed as well, the order item number and all of that stuff as well if you're interested in ordering that. So I'm just going to take my Embossing Buddy, and I'm just going to cover this entire piece of paper with that. And this takes the static and everything out, so that hopefully that embossing powder will stick right where we want it to on our Versamark. So we're going to use the Versamark ink, and I'm going to go ahead and first I'm going to use the large floral piece here, and I'm going to stamp that in several of the places. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the stamp, I'm going to actually put the ink right to the stamp because it's a pretty big stamp, and this way we'll get better coverage. So then, I don't know if you're going to be able to see this on camera or not, but once I put the powder on and we heat emboss, you will be able to see this much better. So I'm going to just stamp one of these images right over here in the corner. And then I'm going to ink this up again. And we'll put another one down here. And then I'm going to put one more up here at the top, coming off the page again. Let's turn this around and just get a different part. Oops. We're going to get just a different part of that stamp for this one. Okay, and then we're going to bring in some of these leaf stamps, and we'll go ahead and fill in some of those areas. And what I want to do is leave some of the space over here for our sentiment. So I'm going to try to be mindful of that when I'm stamping the rest of these pieces, is to just keep this space kind of open. And on this one, I put it in the center, but I'd like to, this time I'm going to move it over to the side a little bit, and so we'll see how that looks. So again, we're just going to ink these up in our Versamark ink, and I'm just going to randomly stamp some of these around our card. I'll take this one. This is the bigger there, and we'll just do a few of those. And then I really liked this one because it has those little berries in there, and I think that adds a little bit of neat interest on here. So I'm just going to add a couple of those around here, and then one more little piece right here, and then that leaves us room for our sentiment in the middle there. Whoops, just hit my light, sorry about that. So then we're gonna, one of the things that's very important, and I'm really bad at this, is be sure you close up your ink pad before you start using your embossing powder, because if not, you're going to have Versamark, you're going to have embossing powder all in your Versamark pad. So be sure that that's closed up and put away before you start getting out your embossing powder. So you can use clear or white, but for this particular one, I'm going to go ahead and use the white embossing powder. So we're just going to go ahead and, here, let me get some on my spoon here, and we're going to cover all these images that we stamped with that Versamark ink, and we're going to get them all covered really well with that powder. There, that looks good. I'm just going to hit this corner just a little bit more. There, and then you just pound it off a little bit, you know, make sure you get all the excess off of there. Just lightly tap it. Okay, so that looks good. That looks like we've got that covered pretty well. So we're going to go ahead and close that up. And so now I'm going to bring in my heat tool. And this is, I'm just going to shake this off. And so now I'm going to bring in my heat tool, and we're going to go ahead and heat this up. And so we're going to get this shiny, glossy finish on here. This powder is going to harden up. So this is going to be a little bit noisy for a minute. So if you want to mute your, computer for a minute, you can do that now. So now I'm just going to hold the heat tool over these images, and you'll start to see this start to melt, and it will turn white, and you'll be able to see it a lot better. See, it's starting to go now. So you just keep moving your heat tool along, until you see that all of that powder has melted. This is so fun. Embossing is one of my favorite things. I love to do this. Such a fun technique. Sorry, this is longer than usual. I don't usually have this much heat embossing to do. Alright, so it looks like we're just about done with that. Whoops. So if we need just a little bit more over in here. Alright, I think that looks good. So we'll turn that off now. Again, sorry for the noise. So then I'm going to bring in, and I think, yeah, that looks like this is the way. And then we'll leave this spot open for our sentiment. And so we're going to go ahead and use our blending brushes. And I love these. I love these brushes, and as you can see, I've already been using them to make my sample card for the video. And so once I'm done with these, I can go ahead and rinse these underwater, and they'll rinse right off, and I can use them again for other colors. Or if you want to, you can get different, you can order brushes for each of the colors. It's totally up to you. I have a few, but I do rinse them and reuse them with similar colors. So now we're going to bring in our Orchid Oasis ink, and I'm going to take that. I'm just going to brush it off a little bit because I want to start lightly, and we're going to go ahead and start inking up our flower pieces. See how pretty that is? Here it comes. You can see that white embossing powder coming through on there now. So then we're going to come over here, and you can do this. I would suggest you start out lightly, and you can add more color as you go along. But the rule is you can add more, but you can't take it off. So I usually try to start fairly light, and then we'll come around here and we'll get this last flower with our blue. Whoops, I'm probably shaking the table here, I'm sorry. And I'm going out around that a little bit because I want some of that shadow around it. I think it's going to look really nice, and that will make our sentiment really pop out there. So we're done now for the moment with our Orchid Oasis. So then we're going to bring in our Old Olive ink pad, and we're going to do the same thing, and we're going to go ahead and ink up all those leaves. Look at that. And you'll see now that I got some of the green, the Old Olive on that, but it's not going to matter because we're going to take a paper towel when we get all done with this, and we're going to wipe all that ink off the embossed pieces, and it's going to shine right up and stand right out. So don't worry about that when you're inking this up. It will wipe right off in a few minutes. So here we go. I'm just going to blend that in a little bit with the less on my pad. See how fun this is? And it doesn't take long. It goes together really quickly. Okay, so I'm happy with that, and I'm going to leave this a little bit light in the center there, like I said, because that's where we're going to put our sentiment. So I'm going to go ahead and bring that in. So we have that nice hello there. And so we're going to put that. Oh, let's not do that yet. Let's go ahead and do this first. Let's take our paper towel. I'm just taking a paper towel. You can take a tissue, whatever you want. And see, look at this. See how pretty that is? It takes the ink, the extra ink right off the embossed part of that and makes it stand out so nicely. Sorry, trying to hold the table here so it doesn't. So see, doesn't matter that we got that ink, the green on the blue, because it comes right off. And like I said, I really love this technique because I feel like it gives the card a really warm, soft and warm look to it. There, see how pretty that is? So, yep, I think we'll have the card going this way. So now we can bring in our sentiment, and we're going to go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and stamp this right over here on the side. There. Oh, that looks pretty. So there, look how pretty that is. And it didn't take us any time at all to do that. So now, well, no, let's leave that out because we're going to go ahead and take our inside piece and we'll put that other sentiment on the inside of our card that says, "Dear friend, how are you?" Try to center that, and I'm going to put it a little bit up higher on the card so that there's room to write more of a sentiment on the bottom there. There we go. Oh, I love that ink. It's so pretty. So now we're ready to put our card together. So let's bring in our pieces again. Here are my pieces. Here they are. Okay, so again, we've got our Orchid Oasis card base, our piece of Old Olive, and we're going to put our piece of Old Olive onto that. We're just going to take our liquid glue, my favorite adhesive, and we're going to put those two together. That on our card, centered up and down and side to side as best we can. Add our really pretty embossed piece to that. Do the same, center that. Go. Then we're going to just add the inside piece. We're going to be done with this card. There we go. How quick and easy was that card? So here's my original card. Here's the card we just made together. And again, we use that beautiful Eden's Garden stamp set, which is featured on page 59 of the annual catalog. And if you want that great embossing tool kit, that is also available in the July to December mini catalog. So I will put all of the supplies I use, the measurements, everything over on my blog at 3 Mile Pond Girl Creates. If you're watching this video and you haven't subscribed to my channel, I'd really appreciate it if you did. And if you click the little bell at beside the subscribe button, you'll get notified every time I post a new video. And if you don't have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, I would love to chat with you about being your demonstrator. If you have any questions on how to order, any questions on any items in the catalog, or any help you'd need, please reach out to me. I'd be happy to help you. So thank you so much for stopping by my channel today. I hope you enjoyed this card, and I hope to see you again soon. Take care.